Robin Williams.
Just mellows you out a little bit. You don't feel it.
Do you think that being in combat sports and obviously absorbing a lot of impact? Welcome to the BSC podcast. Zach and I today have three very special guests. Manny Johnson, former world kickboxing champion. Richie Palmer, entrepreneur, very successful restaurant owner. Pat Strong, former Bruce Lee student, creator of the Deep Level program. And Manny and Richie have Parkinson's and been diagnosed, Richie more recently than Manny. So we'll just get started here. So Manny, just give yourself an abbreviated introduction, please.
I was born and raised in Hawaii. I started martial arts training in 1973. Came to the mainland and started training heavily with some of my heroes in karate, Steve Fisher, Howard Jackson, and others. And went on to into professional kickboxing, also known as full contact karate back then. Became the champion with WKA and highly ranked with PKA.
Okay, Richie.
Was born in New York City, raised in upstate New York, Appalachian foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. Did the nightclub business in New York, 70s and 80s. Moved to LA in 87. And opened the bar called Alzados with Alzados. So I was in the bar business and restaurant business my whole life. I opened up Bulgari Pizza. We have 5 locations. And that's about it. Everything was good. We got diagnosed with Parkinson, so that's what we have to deal with, and we're dealing with it. That's why we're here.
Hi.
Let's see. Well, I'm from Seattle, Washington, and in Seattle, at that time when I was young, I was a lifeguard. I worked out with weights, skydiving, flying an airplane. I used to do everything: skin diver, scuba diving, and I was boxing. I was boxing at the Cherry Street Gym, and on my side, they were aimed toward the Golden Gloves. And about that time, I was introduced to somebody that I was told was a Chinese boxer, and that made no sense to me. It was Bruce Lee. So I trained with Bruce Lee for a number of years. And in that time, I picked up, I was more interested in his philosophy than a lot of the training, the things that he talked about, which I never heard, and I've never heard of since after Bruce Lee. He was steeped in philosophy. And so anyway, I trained with him. I came down to California. I've gone into a lot of martial arts and stuff. I'm 82 years old. I've been doing this for over 60 years. And that's my introduction.
Okay, Manny. So, what year were you diagnosed with Parkinson's? And in hindsight, did you have symptoms that, of course, you didn't know about at the time? Take us through that process.
I was officially diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2014 at the age of 56. 68 now. And some of the things that were happening to me at the time that I was diagnosed was I was noticing my feet were feeling heavy. I was walking, the movement became more labored. I described this as a doctor as I feel like I'm walking in quicksand. And I had some various tests done when I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. But after reading up about the disease and learning more about it, I was actually showing signs that there was something wrong with me. I think as far as some physical problems. One of the first things I noticed when I was about 19, 20 years old was I was having a difficult time with my sense of smell. And people would comment on fragrance or good food. And I would know what they were talking about. And another symptom I used to get was what we described as night fighting, fighting in my sleep. When you go to sleep, your body it's supposed to be turned off, and so you can rest peacefully. But when you have a problem with your neurological system, um, the the fighting in your sleep, and later it was describing me as REM sleep disorder, uh, rapid eye movement sleep disorder, and so that was another issue. Another issue was had a difficult time with my speech. And I'm actually starting to have some of that now. Again, I didn't have that for many decades. So that,
So when you had the REM sleep disorder, were you aware this was happening when you were sleeping, or was something that your wife at the time was making you aware of?
yeah, my wife, my girlfriend at the time, she would describe that you know you hit me in when we were sleeping, and but one distinctive time that I remember was when I would I would dream I was sleeping. I mean, fighting with somebody. And one time I rolled out of bed after throwing a kick in my sleep, and I landed on all fours like a cat. And then I rolled over, uh, thinking I was going to fight somebody else.
Now, at this point, you woke up, but this was all happening while you're still sleeping.
Well, I was still sleeping until I rolled over again on my back and was ready to go again. And then my wife peeked her head over the bed, and I remember so well because we just started laughing, like uncontrolled.
So not only were you deadly when you were 100% healthy and in the ring, you were deadly when you were sleeping.
Yeah, probably more dangerous.
So, Richie, you were diagnosed about 18 months ago.
Yes.
But take us through that. And did you have any symptoms that now, in hindsight, you look back and go, this was Parkinson's, but I didn't know it at the
Yes,
time?
as Manny said, the sense of smell, a loss of the sense of smell. I had, I lived on Benedict about 20 years ago, and I would get up and drive into Beverly Hills, and every day when I hit Sunset, same spot, I'd get a little lethargic. It would get the jaw drop a little bit, and then now I realize
You could
it
physically
was
feel it.
Oh yeah.
Or was it a fog?
No, it was a little foggy, but you could feel it. But never having to deal with any disease, I was never sick a day in my life till 20 years ago. You didn't expect it to be anything.
Now,
I was just tired.
When you say that I mean, it almost happened all the time at a specific area.
Yes.
Was that a time thing? Meaning from the time you woke up, you did whatever you
Yes.
did at home? And
I
then
didn't do anything on me. I'd get dressed, jump in the car, go to the gym. And when I hit the same spot every day, I guess the dopamine depleted wherever it was from sleeping, I think. You would know better.
So it was based on a time thing, basically. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it wasn't a
But the only real symptoms I had was tremor in my right hand, slight tremor.
at that time.
At that time, no,
Just before they were diagnosed.
yeah, take us through some years ago. And as Manny said, just to throw this in, they tested me for the sleeping, whatever you call it.
Room sleep disorder.
Yeah, and I didn't have any of that. This was a year ago. I didn't have any sleep problems. But I started about a year and 2 years ago, whatever it was, just a little tremor in my right hand. And being in the restaurant business, I work every day. And I serve people their food, pizza, slice of pizza, whatever. And I was started to shake a little more. Like I would bring a cup of ice and it would literally start spilling. So I used my left hand and that was fine. And doctor came in and I served him this slice of pizza. And he said, "How long have you had Parkinson's?" So I'm like, "Parkinson's is crazy. It's not your Parkinson's." So he said, "Better get a check." So I got his great neurologist. I asked a couple of friends. And he sent me over to see this, and I walked in. He said, "Yeah, we got parked." Just looking at him walk in, like he said, it's stride as whatever it is. And this is what they do. You do it, you do it, we'll do it.
But you didn't feel different, did you, other than the little tremor?
No.
Because you just said they said by the way you walking.
Felt fine.
But you felt fine except for this little tremor.
Right. Right. And then he diagnosed me, and I started taking the tests, and I had it. I did the brain scan, the 2,500 pictures,
Yeah.
and came back with Parkinson's.
Is that how you were diagnosed, Manny? The same?
Yeah, they do something called a DAT scan,
Right.
DAT, and they also do an MRI. And there was a particular concern because of also had trauma with their contact sports, like played youth football through high school, and played a lot of contact sports, and boxing and kickboxing and karate. And so I definitely had trauma. I have frontal lobe damage and temporal lobe damage. But there's a lot. But after reading up on Parkinson's, there's a lot of other possible sources of the causes.
Every case is different. I could have tremors, I could have this, and Manny have some completely on the other side. I won't have it be.
It depends on the individual.
I don't have it. Once in a while, somebody will say to me, "What'd you say?" And I find myself talking a little low. But again, that's when I'm tired. You
Yes.
just got to keep.
Or like get the stress. Now, of course, one of the things we have to take into account is that stress is a big factor.
Yeah, stress, hunger.
Yes.
So say, what do you do to minimize the stress? Because even though you're very successful, you have a lot of restaurants and so on and so forth, there's X amount of stress that comes
Yeah.
with business.
Yeah.
Well, how do you deal with
Like how much stress comes with life. You just try and avoid it. If I really get stressed out, the doctor gave me an anxiety. Yeah.
Anxiety.
It's not like a heavy duty drug. As a matter of fact, you don't even notice anything, but it just calms you down a little.
So it's not an SSRI.
That's it.
It's what it's controlled substance type.
No, it's a prescription, of course, but it's not like you don't get high from it. You don't gotcha.
Yeah.
It just mellows you out a little. If you don't feel anything at all, I don't know how it works, but
So, Manny, do you think that being in combat sports and obviously absorbing a lot of impact to the brain had anything to do with the Parkinson's, or do you think that with where you grew up and with different sprays and fertilizers and rat killers, Roundup and so on, that it's quite possible you could have got this anyways? Have they come up with anything yet, or where they can say, Manny Johnson, you were a fighter, but you know what? We've assessed your brain, we've done this and that. It was from the poisons in the air, for example.
Well, it's my understanding that we can do some DNA testing to see if you are predisposed to certain types of diseases, including Parkinson's. But most of these neurological diseases, they have to examine your brain after death, and there's a lot of diseases that are under the Parkinson's and Brown.
Take us through those. What are give us throw out a few names of those.
One that's become a little more known is dementia with Lewy bodies, or Lewy bodies dementia. Lewy spelled Lewy, and Lewy bodies are a type of protein in your brain that has a curious thing about it. They actually fold. They're called folded protein cells. They accumulate in the brain, and this is what Robin Williams, he had this he was initially diagnosed with Parkinson's when he was alive, but after examination, it was reframed as Lewy body's dementia. Another disease in that umbrella is PSP, progressive supranuclear palsy, and so it's a horrible condition where you can't see below you're looking at your eye and the horizon. It has below the horizon you can't see.
But you could see peripherals still too.
Even that I have to check, but I'm sure your peripheral vision is affected because you know
Anything outside your phone.
I see my hands right here, but and it's below the horizon. They wouldn't have that. So falling is a real danger of that condition. Whether Ron says has been diagnosed with PSP. I say Jesse Jackson, I think, has been diagnosed with PSP.
Now is Alzheimer's in that realm of the umbrella that you were speaking of?
Well, it's not it's different from Parkinson's, but it has that curious thing about folded proteins. So now doctors are looking a lot at these folded proteins and all the things that are similar to that, and so there's a big focus on coming up with a game plan to cure that.
Well, my grandmother was just diagnosed with Alzheimer's about 2 months ago, and I just came back from visiting them for a while. Normally, there's a good 3 to 6 months in between me going back and visiting. Well, I was just back there in November, and I could see quite a difference in the change within that 3-month period. She seems like her memory in the past, she could tell you a date like that. Oh, me and your grandfather went to Maui in 1968. That was the first year. Then she'll ask me 10 times, what time are we going to dinner tonight? Or where are we going? Stuff along those sides. But a lot of the things that we were chatting about earlier was kind of hitting in there for me, thinking about her. And then when you mentioned dementia, I'm like, oh man, it's like it's all under kind of one umbrella. And what the doctor had explained to her was similar to what you guys brought up earlier, was stress. Minimizing stress. Her Alzheimer's gets worse when she's stressed. When there's little acute stress situations is when she prevents. If that particular thing that is bothering her is stressing her out or whatever, that is what she'll end up forgetting over and over. So going to dinner at 5 p.m., she's thinking about it. So she asks about it all the time. You guys, what we're doing, how we're doing it, And it seems that there's a little bit of parallel there, And one thing I was going to bring up was, we had talked about earlier, was when sleep seems to be quite a big factor. Or there's something there sleep-wise, because even Michael J. Fox in his documentary had brought up how he wasn't sleeping at all for like 6 months when he was doing Family Ties and Back to the Future, and then right after was when he really started to feel it, except for like little eye twitches and stuff. And he did say that he had that.
The sleep's very important, they say.
Yeah, it seems like sleep was involved. That's the one common denominator that you guys both have in that sense.
Well, you were just saying, Richie, that if you get 8 hours, you're good, but if you get 5,
I get 5, I'm bad. Not bad, but I'm cloudy.
now just break that down a little bit. Are you cloudy for a bit, or you're cloudy for the day?
For the day.
So basically, just more outside on.
Eat right. If I don't, that's good. I'm not allowed to have meat cooked at all. Vegan fish diet. Or cheap messes with the meds I was told.
Is it the leucine content that messes with the meds you take?
Fights the meds with it.
So there must be a specific branched chain amino acid that is fighting something. And like you said, the folded proteins in the brain. I'm drawing a blank on what folded protein it would be, but it's got to be one of those essential aminos, no? Or would it be a non-essential? I'm not sure.
Well, I think there's multiple, but the main issue of Parkinson is lack of dopamine.
Right.
And dopamine is an amino acid it's also in this case it serves as a neurotransmitter, and this is what's carrying it. It makes it possible for the signal to be sent from the brain to the and thorax, so to speak, and so
Now, you had mentioned earlier that your dad was a bug sprayer. So take us through that because,
environmental factor.
yeah,
Yeah.
was it do you feel it was passed on to you through the DNA? And is there actually proof of that?
yeah, there's proof that Parkinson's can be passed down through DNA. My grandfather, on my mother's side, Filipino immigrants that came over in the 1920s, worked at the sugar cane plantations on the island of Hawaii, Hawaiian islands, and it's described that in the 1950 census that he worked for a sugar plantation, and his occupation was bug sprayer. That's how it was diagnosed.
Now, is there scientific proof of this that it can be passed down through the DNA from somebody who may be exposed or may have had it in their system through these points?
It definitely can't be, because that's the first thing I looked up when I read that census report. After years after I had already been diagnosed, and and looked at the census and saw that, and when I saw that on the census report, I like to go to places like Wikipedia, and even you have to source everything that they do, but they had many such studies that were done showing DNA being affected by easily recyclable bug sprays.
Now, Richie, you grew up in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And you were around a lot of bug sprays and so on.
Raise electric power lines, a lot of pesticides.
Do you feel that any of those pesticides contributed to your Parkinson's?
I believe it did contribute, but in total honesty, I think it was lifestyle, abusing alcohol a little bit, and not that alcohol, but drinking a little too much. I want to bring that point up. You don't have to be an alcoholic to suffer from alcohol poisoning or alcohol being detrimental damage to the body. I believe it was being in the nightclub business around smoke, cigars and cigarettes and alcohol. Mono use, you're out there, you're drinking, it's stressful. It goes against God's nature to be asleep when it gets dark. You're up all night, which I believe had a lot to do with it. And it was just lifestyle, I think, in my case, where yours would be more trauma and hereditary. Mine was self-abuse.
Now, do you find a lot of people today take testosterone? Take the testosterone pill, to take testosterone injections, to take growth hormone, almost everybody. Do either one of you feel, because it's been proven that growth hormone can exacerbate a potential issue in your body, a disease, whatever. Do you feel that might have contributed to bringing this earlier than it may have if one is not using growth hormone?
I don't think so. Because I had some symptoms, as I said, 20 years ago, and I wasn't on anything 20 years ago. And I not think you're a very astute guy, and I know you read a lot, but I don't know that the proof fact.
No, I'm
It's
asking.
just I think it's a correlation.
Yeah.
There's certain
Well,
correlations.
people say testosterone grows, tumors grows, this and that. I've been on testosterone, and a lot of my friends have been on testosterone for a long time without a problem. And I have written permission. I had prostate cancer.
Yeah.
I have written permission from my urologist that I can take testosterone.
Yeah,
It's abusing it is from
I know a lot of people on testosterone. Someone
Yeah.
says you'll lose your hair, this and the other, but I look at them and they have,
yeah, you got a good hair still.
yeah, I mean, they got plenty of hair.
Yeah.
It's not like they're losing their hair at all.
And as you said, I think it's abuse more than
It's abuse, yeah, I think so. And I think there's also, when it comes down to medications, everybody's different, everybody reacts different, but at the same time too, it's like you have these stigmas that are out there in the social aspect of things where, oh, taking testosterone will kill you. But yet when somebody's sick, a lot of people get put on testosterone. So, or when things are off balance, they put on testosterone. People that have AIDS, things like that, they get on all these different types of testosterones to keep their, their red blood cells and everything going where they need it.
A lot of people with AIDS get prescribed growth hormone.
Yeah.
And I think,
Takes the cup, stops the muscle mass.
yeah.
Problem is if you do a little HGH and a little testosterone, in a month you can look like Bruce Lee if you work out or you eat right. So a little bit's good.
Yeah.
It's gotta be great.
There's that line, right? Yeah. It's like,
Cross the line.
and in any medication, it's a give or take, right? It's there's goods that come from it, but there's the off take.
And guys still come in with their noses gigantic and they red. Something like that.
But then there's, my grandfather never took anything his entire life, but at 80 or 80 years old before he had passed, his ears had gotten big, his nose had gotten, that's just, I think that's life too. But I think we all are like trying in our brains, I'm sure, to think like, okay, what is the direct causation of this? What is anything that has life, right? We're always, what's the direct causation? But like the variables are infinite, right? I mean, we will never truly know until somebody.
Well, Manny, Freddie Roger, Spinks brothers. You talk to these guys, you could see there's damage with them. But then you go with Mike Tyson, who took a lot of shots to the head starting at 13. And he's lucid, he's fine.
Yeah.
But, you can name guys all day long on both sides. But
It's interesting thing about head trauma. It seems to you can have a symptom of dementia, but not be the things that people think about all the time. That are talking or appear to be punched down here. That's the general picture that people have about dementia. But dementia can affect, and Parkinson can affect your decision making process, your executive function, and people make bad decisions.
I know a lot of people that have no diseases and they make a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But we go back. You're in a very unique position in the sense that you have Parkinson's and you train people with Parkinson's. So when you train a Parkinson's patient, well, how do you go about it? So let's talk to the audience about how you go about it opposed to how you would train somebody who doesn't have Parkinson's.
Well, I talk to them quite a bit. I'm involved in a lot of support groups for Parkinson's and also the caregivers of Parkinson's, which are generally a spouse. And one of the main discussions is getting over this almost grief period where they're not accepting the situation. And so I talk about that life doesn't turn out like you planned it sometimes, and so you become kind of a coach of their attitude, because the actual issue of dopamine being a problem is also the biggest problem, because of not having dopamine in your system, you have a lack of motivation. You tend to want to sit on the couch. You tend to want to get in a fetal position, and some people just stay there and they're basically waiting to die. And you have to constantly talk about this as far as getting to change their ways, and exercise is one of the ways that they can definitely build up their motivation, and in that death it becomes an issue of hope. The emotion, the thought of hope starts a whole thing in your brain about and producing all kinds of chemicals that cascade through the body.
The hope
And then
itself
system. The
does
hope-
cost a living, right?
The thought of hope itself.
Yeah.
And that's so that becomes a part of the training, that this is this activity is going to uh, help you improve and have a better quality of life for dealing with Parkinson's. And some of the specific things I do, I deal with balance issues. Balance issues are a big problem with Parkinson's, because their sense of their senses in their balance and proprioceptive functions in their body become an issue. So we work a lot on that balance issues and getting them safe to deal with falls and preventing falls, and making them aware and making them body aware. And it's a whole new thing for a lot of people that don't have an athletic background, and even athletes don't know why they do the things they do. So we try to break it down for them. I know that you're very good at it. So you're very good. I've listened to you describe these things to your students and your clients, and so
So you guys do a lot of PNF type things? Is that what you're saying? A lot of proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation? Is that a lot of the stuff you guys are doing?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just making them aware, because in everyday life and everyday functioning and in navigating, getting up to go to the bathroom at night when you have no eyesight, you completely depend on your proprioception.
Yeah.
And so I teach them to really focus and give them more lessons on how to number one, just be aware of it. By just being aware of what's going on in your body, this is teaching them, and they get better at it by just being aware of it.
It's not a death sentence by any means. Just fight it. Yes, the Jones here that our experts are fighting it. You fight it. I've been told that I did not get any worse the last year and a half. Oh, that's great. Yeah. But I'm here.
No, you didn't. The test is that for Sam. In fact, I think you're actually better.
Yeah. One doctor said I got better. I was better. But it's not a death sentence, especially with you guys, but you're doing with people. You know, I think normal people that have never worked out, they need to start with you guys and work out. And you turn to the gym rats, but everybody here has been a gym rat their whole life. A professional fighter or expert in martial arts for 30 years. So,
Well, I think too, like stuff like this needs to happen. Like you said, you're involved in a lot of groups and making the awareness. You had mentioned something earlier where, we make them aware of certain situations, because if you're not aware, how are you going to find something?
right.
And, being aware and then also having the education combined with that awareness now, which is this kind of talk right here really goes a long way. And there are people that need to hear this. And like, one of the things I was kind of thinking was like, are there certain things you guys could provide to say the audience to where like, be aware of certain things that happened, like when you first were getting it, to where like they might say, okay, that was happening to me. Little things that suddenly started coming about.
Just the tremors thing.
Yeah.
That
Well, before you knew it, it actually was the fog and feeling a little.
now I know that.
Yeah.
But what got me to go to the doctor was the tremors.
Now, my question is that for both of you, Richie and Manny, in hindsight, if you knew when you first got the very early symptoms that there were early symptoms of Parkinson's, is there anything that can be done medically so it doesn't get to the point where
Curb it.
so it doesn't get to the point of the tremors? And if it does,
Physically,
but if it does, it gets there a lot slower. Is there anything that can be done? Now, I know you've spoken to a lot of medical professionals about this.
Well, the unfortunate thing is that by the time the symptoms show up, damage is
The
way.
wave is already come.
That train is left.
Yeah, but you tackle it like with you guys. What you do is amazing. It could arrest the freaking disease.
Now, Pat,
Stop it.
to get back to you, Pat, Pat came up with this program years back. You know, he developed it himself called Deep Level. And, you know, when I train some of my clients, I use, for example, this, you know, whereas, you know, you assign your right or left hand to a specific color, and then there's a neutral color that you basically say grab it with either hand. I find them very good. Pat, you came up with this program and also with this NeuroDisc, which again has the colors, you know, yellow, red, blue. And, you know, again, you designate a hand to grab it, which you can do all kinds of exercises. So, Pat, take us through that a little bit, please, and to talk to us how this is benefiting Parkinson's patients.
We have a product that's a whole product in itself. This is just one part of it. That product is standalone or combined with this, or this is a standalone and combined with that. This product here is very similar to that, except for it goes through. First of all, it has weight. And that's because in the center of it, we have steel shot, and around the side, because of the grip, we have sand. Okay, but the same thing with that, when he throws it and he says blue, I catch blue. I throw it back, I say red, he catches the red. This is cognitive. This is developing a lot of their different kinds of speed. Your mental speed, for example, your recognition speed. You have to recognize what's coming at you. There's something coming at you, what color it is, and you have to respond to it. And that's your processing speed. And that comes in your reaction speed. In other words, you have these different types of speed. And in our program, we work on every one individually. We build every single one individually. So the speed becomes incomprehensible. How incomprehensible? When I say incomprehensible, I said by general standards, the way that we know human movement and everything, there's limits on it. And you go to this, you unlimited. Okay, it's a different thing. Now, for example, with this, I can throw this and you can catch it and you can put it behind your back. You can come over, you can go into this hand, throw it back, hair, behind the back, whatever you want to do. That's your agility and everything else. This one happened before comers. Now we have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for the medical field alone. Now, let me just start at the bottom, if I may. This is the person who is in a hospital and cannot see a therapist. They're too weak. Let's say that they're so weak that they can't even move. That weak. Okay, and what happens is they would go beyond that. Maybe they'd build their strength up and they can't even move a bathroom. Somebody has to be there to help them into the bathroom, right? And then they help them back to bed. And then they just want to get out of the bed, maybe get to the chair. Somebody has to help them get to the chair and get back in the bed. And then eventually they can go out and walk a little bit. And then pretty soon they walk some more. Even then, they are not ready to see a therapist. Because to be a physical therapist in a hospital, you have to have the strength to be able to do it. With this product, we have these going up to 7 pounds. But the medical one is 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, this can be sitting here like that. Let's say that I'm paralyzed. I can't even move it. But I say yellow. My eyes being. Now, watch what happens with my eyes being. This moved. You see everything else? The lie is just moving the eyes changes your center of gravity. And this is getting very deep. And this is what deep really means. It's going very deep. So if I say blue, I look at the blue. If I say yellow, I look at the yellow. Okay, later on, maybe you say red, maybe I can touch this. And maybe you say blue, maybe I can touch, you say touch with the right hand. Maybe I can touch the red. You said yellow. Okay, and then pretty soon, maybe you can lift it up like that. Maybe you can go like this. Maybe you can pass it to the other hand. Red, yellow, lily. Maybe you can even toss it. Maybe you can throw it to somebody. Now, let's say, for example, I have it here at whatever level I am, and I say 3. Well, we know that the red has numbers 1, 2, 3, yellow has 4, 5, 6, and blue has 7, 8, 9. And the top is a 0. That's the primary numbers. That means mental gap. So let's say for now, I throw it to you and I say 3. You have to process that 3 was in the red and catch to that. This is very difficult. And then as you get better, not only can you do that, and this one get highly skilled, you not only can become close for the 3, close as you can. You build up in the yellow. But the main thing is that you're right in this part of the thing. Later on, you catch the 3. So we're talking about really building up. Now, by the same token of that, because I have neural numbers, just like the other product, they have all the neural numbers, all primary numbers, 1 through 10. I can do telephone numbers. I can do this and go 4, 7, 6, 3, 9, 1, 2. That's mental exercise. And you know what? Just because my eyes are working, but because my eyes are working, I was changing my center of gravity, and I was firing neuromuscular. So I'm building, just with my eyes, I'm building neural pathways that I wouldn't have done before. Because this is not a matter of just walking on like this. You do that already. But now you're focusing. And that means target neural training. That's the difference.
And we're talking about the other apparatus that goes with it. This is it. As you can see, it's flag material. It's a little big for where we're at here, but it hangs. And it can hang from your door. You can hang it from we've a handheld to move it around. You see the Velcro at the top, that's where it attaches. You can run it through here like this, through a rope, a bar, a strap. And at the bottom we have the Velcro, which, you put a little weight, so it just gives it enough weight so it's steady enough for you to hit it, but it's very pliable. Pat, talk about a little bit about the creation of this and also about the custom auto numbers, because as we know, they're out of sync a little bit opposed to the standard 1, 2, 3.
No, the original idea, change the boost rate. What Bruce did, he had a lot of way to train. He trained all day long. Okay, I mean, he thought about what he was doing. He practiced it. If he was sitting and watch a person eating, he would touch this every time the person reaches for the fork, every time you do that. When he was sitting watching television, he's looking at an exterior cut and an interior cut on you, where the camera is. Every time that happened, he would split, he would trip, okay? So he sees here, he sees interior here, goes to exterior here. Okay, and then he's right back again. He sees the camera on you and he goes to here. Okay, to switch from you to you. Okay, what he's doing when he's doing that is recognition speed. The body intelligence is the whole idea of practicing this so that you can do it, because later on, you're going to do something a lot different than that. But in the beginning, you're working this. Now, let's just say for the bits and pieces, this is in addition to workouts. When a person's walking, they might be doing this. They're perfecting this. In the beginning, they can do this, but now, this way is kind of hard. So they become to do this, okay? And this here can become that, or that can become that, or that can become this. See, it's the thing that is the body intelligence that's doing that without a major muscle contraction. A major muscle contraction means that you have the intention to do something. Bruce's thing was non-intention. Wu Wei, the not doing and letting it happen. The Wei Wu, the soft and invisible
Now,
autonomy.
how does that benefit the Parkinson's?
Okay, well, the Parkinson's person, in the beginning, they don't realize what they're learning, but they're learning all of this because of billiards, okay? It's very important that you, from the time you wake up in the morning until you go to bed at night, that at some time throughout the whole day, we're practicing doing something that reinforces cognitive, whatever it is that you're doing. You can, for example, that target, you can hang it in the doorway. I would recommend a doorway that's between the bedroom and the bathroom. So right when you get up in the morning, it's right there. The first thing you should do, though, when you wake up, before you even get up, is to do a few exercises. Now, not 5 exercises with 8 reps. From the beginning, let's say, because people don't want to do that. Let's say it's only 3 exercises to 3 reps, but they're doing. See, it's not important that they're getting the physical activity. Look, the important thing is they're doing it, right? That's one. So you might say, well, just take your spine and push your spine into the bed there, just 3 times. Because this is going to build it 5, 6, whatever they're going to do with it, whatever they feel like doing. But in the beginning, it was just to get them to do this, okay? And then from there, they reach up and do a little thing like touching the leg. They do 3 or 4 exercises, and anybody can do. But the thing is, they get in the habit that in the morning they start their day. Now from there, they can do a few warm-ups, do other exercises, because you want to warm up the body. You don't want to do something to warm your body, especially when you get older. And now they walk over to that target. And on the target, they can spend a few seconds, or they could spend a half an hour. Okay, they can do any kind of a number of workouts they can do. They can work out for speed. If you want to build, I'm not talking about fast, very fast. I'm talking about absolutely instant, incredible speed. If you're going to train that, train it for morning. Big force, nurturing the nervous system, the muscles were fresh. You get there and don't do more than 3 or 4 reps. So just even from this, as you get onto it, later on, was going to have to eat that sweet, that cold poly. Okay, I didn't do that. Body intelligence did that, but it was trained into my system to do that. They don't know that. In the very beginning, they're doing little things like this. In the very beginning, they're walking and they're doing mental math, 20 and 68. They're doing the exercises, mental math. While they're walking, which they should do every day, they might be turned around and maybe it's just this. Maybe it's just this move. Maybe whatever you're a martial artist, maybe instead of this, you shorten it to this, this. What did that do? It changed the way I thought everything because I put something into that. This is entirely different than the very first one. But now, once I've trained the nervous system, I do that, then I have that.
Now, what we have here on the chart is we put in the customado numbers. You know, usually the standard boxing is 1 is a jab, 2 is a right cross. Well, with Cuss, he took it out of that. He made 7 the right, the left jab. Richie, you've been working this program for a year and a half now. How do you find it benefits you?
Well, it just makes you work more with the numbers. You have a goal, do it.
On your crisscross, it's very important, as we know. The left side of the brain controls the right side of the body and vice versa.
It's the way you're saying it's almost second nature after 6 months.
Body toes.
Yeah. So it's easier to do. It's more, it's
How do you find that doing the numbering system that we use, how do you find it benefits you?
just making your brain work.
You feel sharper.
Yeah. When you leave, your endorphins are going, you feel a little better. And he's a maniac, so he's got you going fast. And I fight it because it's human nature to be lazy.
Well, I think it's more of a challenge. For example, if I call 721 and I go 721, I go 212, 121. I mean, that's not, for a guy like him, it's not a challenge. It's not going to be a challenge for you. But if I go 721, 212, 121, 65651, 56562, 65652, 65651.
Really gets that.
Yeah, because again, like you say, it's recognition. How fast can you recognize what I said and then deliver it?
Yeah.
And that pushes and pushes. I believe in the harder you work your brain, to memorize and recognize what I'm saying, that slows down the progression of Parkinson's.
It takes you a couple of months and then you want to go fast. You won't even go.
And of course, you have to do it at, my way of doing it is I do it at 100% of the individual. First of all, to be able to do that, you need to have X amount of condition. If there's different levels of Parkinson's, and you have somebody who's in more progression and they're in a wheelchair, they're not going to be able to function as fast as he can.
But that's where I feel like that device
Yes.
very beneficial.
Well, I think they both work hand in hand, Pat. Would that be correct? This and it, they're the same thing.
Exactly.
Just a progression. This is a progression.
There, you're building speed, agility. You're aiming on his forepost active. Here, we've got weights. And if I take a dumbbell, I go like this. This thing would do everything a dumbbell would do, but see what happens? It bends. And the shifts, so it changes the weight. Every rep that I do is different. Yeah, if I hold this, it's different, right?
Yeah.
But this one, like a kettlebell. Kettlebells are fabulous.
Yeah.
But the problem is you can't throw them in a hospital or anywhere else because if you drop it on your floor, it probably just bulky flag. So on this, it means nothing. It's safe. But on this one, they'll do everything that you can do with a dumbbell, but everything you can do with a kettlebell and way, way more. Because now, here's the thing, and I was listening to what you were saying right on. There's basically 2 types of exercise. One is physical and one is mental. Okay. And a person can progress by doing physical exercises and then working crossword puzzles or doing mental exercises. But the studies have been a lot and they've shown that this one does it and this one does it. But what they've also shown is that when you put the 2 together, it has a greater effect than either of them separate.
Yeah.
When you get the 2. Now, with that number system, you're immediately, now what are you doing? Learning how to move and balance and everything that you're doing, building your body into a book and building your skills and having fun doing it, you get feedback right away because you can do it now. Maybe let's say at the beginning of a weekend, gosh, you could throw 10 punches and rest of the 10 punches again. But pretty soon you're doing hours, 100 as fast as you can, 10-second rest. That's KIP training, high intensity interval training.
Yeah.
You can use almost every kind of training method possible with something here. But now what you do with that, I can do with my eyes. If I do something with my eyes, I can't imagine. I showing you before what this would do.
Yeah.
You can know. Now with this thing, that's a 0. If I catch you here, that's a 0. That's a 3, right? I can now go 13s, 1 and 3, right? I can do math, and the 13 plus 56. Okay, so I know it's 69. So I go a 6 and a 9. See, there's a lot of games just like that. There's a lot of games that you can play and create. The same thing is the Augustin Novel system. But the difference is you change it to a 7 instead of a 1. It's not only to confuse the opponents in the ring, but that alone, if I take just my eyes and I go 1, 3, 5, you say 7, I'm looking at a pattern. I'm looking down, no, it's up there. Just that confusion already becomes cognitive. Now you work with left side of 1, 3, 4, all odd numbers, and the right side of all even numbers. Now you do combinations and you do what you do in boxing. You start striking. Now in the universal system, you had 1 to 5 numbers, maybe must guess numbers 1 to 8. But in what we do, we go 9 and 10. That means 10 primary numbers. That means mental math. So kids, well, that's the reason I kind of got into all this was kids. Now the industrial nations country with the fruit from the block, physics and that. The kids aren't motivated. Right? So what we can do with them is we can get them really early and teach them that man stuff. We can show them how to do things that nobody else can do. But they understand the word sport, potential, energy, and kinetic energy. They're 7 years old. And they know the difference between potential and kinetic. They know the difference between gravitation potential, elastic potential, extension and attraction. They, at a young age, have developed a vocabulary that's going to be with them for the rest of their lives because they can do it. They understand the difference between convergence and divergence. Divergence, you can never, if the body moves first and anything, it can never be in perfect form. If you're a golfer and you move the body first, that swing will never be in perfect alignment. But if you start the swing with the hands first, the body will follow in perfect alignment. Now, how do you start the hands? Because that's how you start a movement that means everything. So let's say that I'm going to move, I'm not a golfer. From here, I'm going to move that throughout the fastest jump the body is a smooth finger. This is much like stuff. There's also in baseball. Pitcher. That's what the coach said, no. So if I take this then, and while I'm going to do it this time, I'm going to use this finger. I let that little finger start and see what happens. I started the movement with that little finger. Okay, now deep level goes way deeper. Way deeper. Now watch the difference. I do this thing, just see, that's me, see it? I'm not above, you can see it, potential. I start this thing by opening the little finger. Oh, it's a lot different. Now I go back, and that tip of that little finger right there is only going to move 100th of an inch. I'm not doing anything different, but it's going to move 100th of an inch. Whoa, oh. What happened? What happened with all of this? What happened by doing 100th of an inch, your brain cannot possibly captivate. 1,000 inch is so far away from it. We're really talking about deep hidden into the body intelligence now.
I find that there's that there's a parallel between boxing and a metaphor almost between the boxing and the Parkinson's. Like for one, it seems like there's quite a stigma that, that boxing comes with Parkinson's and vice versa, which we obviously that's not always the case, but it just seems like it's out there. Like, Michael J. Fox wasn't a boxer. He didn't have any brain trauma, but people tend to kind of put that together. But one of the things that pops out to me is the fight. It's somebody had mentioned it earlier that if you have purpose and you have hope and you're ready to, I think you mentioned, to fight this thing.
Yeah.
It ends up being like the greatest fight of your life in a way, which to me is like, it's a metaphor because that's what boxing is too. And then you have the training, the mental and physical training. It seems like boxing is also a part of it that is very well versed and good for people that have Parkinson's. And just listening to you guys talk, it it just, to me, it's just a kind of cool metaphor that boxing has kind of been synonymous with it, but at the same time, odd that it's synonymous with it at the same time.
That's the only sport where you try and kill the other,
Yeah.
punch him in the face.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is that I spoke to a doctor a few years back, and he said just to stimulate the brain and keep the brain active.
Yeah.
Now, he was talking to me in layman's terms. He said, take Filipino Cali. And I asked him, why Filipino Cali and why not something else? Now, he wasn't saying you can't do this in other systems. He just picked this. He said, because Filipino Cali, when you do the Sinawali drills, you know, they'll come in a horizontal motion, right to left, left to right, diagonal, left to right, right to left, upward diagonal, you know, so on and so forth. But a lot of it is going right to left, left to right, and it crosses. And he said it activates both sides of the brain, it really stimulates it. And he's not that far from you. He's actually in Century City. And the interesting thing is that I know some older people that could be in their 80s, and they're not fighters, could do the Sinawali drills with the new Kali and various martial arts all alike, but they're very sharp and into you.
Sure.
So there's
No,
something there.
there's something there. They claim it's just this just because it's just anything that crosses
And
center
only
line.
you use is going to get better. Anything you don't use is going to get stagnant.
Yeah, but they say very specifically when you cross.
Yeah.
Not when you stay on one side.
Yes.
It's when you cross it. And
And another thing that's weird, like about that, is you had said you brought up the it hits by itself type thing. But I know when I do certain drills like that, at some point your brain almost turns off, and you're just going, and it like something takes over, and you're not even, and you're not even having to think about it. It's just coming, right?
Well,
There's got to be something there on
isn't that the key to knowing anything?
Yeah.
That's where you can stop
and just turn it on.
and you can have a conversation.
Simulation is you.
Yeah, you can take off right from where you stop, or while you're doing something, we talk.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Talk about what did we do this past weekend while you're doing a drill. That's when you know
get
it's really
playing. The drummers are playing, and it
Yeah.
is a bartending. You can get in the zone, and
Yeah.
you're making a million drinks, or making a pizza, or doing what you do, or karate, or kickboxing. It just goes on autopilot. You're in the zone.
Yeah.
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 So Manny, take us through what you're doing currently for Parkinson's, because I know you've got some things going on, and how moving forward. I mean, we have kickboxing or full contact karate, whatever you want to call it, or boxing, and you know, even wrestling did backheads. You know, there's a lot of trauma in all kinds of combat sports. You don't have to be directly getting punched, but you're just making impact. Footballers get it, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Are you planning anything as you move forward in the future to minimize the potential of TBI? And talking about TBI, essentially, would you say TBI and Parkinson's are kind of the same thing?
Yeah, they very much are.
So take us through that.
When we're talking about Parkinson's, you're talking about chronic disease. We're talking about such the causes of it take years in most cases to affect your body and nervous system and your brain. With TBI, it's just like it says, it's traumatic. It's acute. It's happening like it's life changing, like right on the spot. And that's partisan. It's accumulating over time. Well, we can take, for me personally, I've always I've identified myself as a martial artist for a long time. 50 years, and it's and it's something that I identify myself with a lot, even now. But I really identify myself more as a person with Parkinson's, and I talk about it with perfect strangers. When I meet somebody, I'll usually work it into the conversation. I'll say something like, if you can't hear me, because my voice is a little softer, soft. Just is getting one of these or something. That way I know that I need to speak up. I've got Parkinson's, and one of the things that are affected is my projecting my voice, and I have some stuttering once in a while, and then that'll open up the conversation because I want to make the world aware of what this disease does, and they know people. And I'll say, by the way, do you know anyone personally or anything, or in your family, or know somebody who has a relative with Parkinson's? And I'll get the conversation going that way. And I'll make them aware of the support groups I'm involved with, and I'll make them aware of, if you know anybody, they can get a hold of me, as this website or so on and so forth.
And feel free to drop some of those websites or anything right now for the audience or the organizations that you're involved with, if you feel comfortable doing so.
Yeah, I'm very involved with Saddleback Church and down in Orange County, and it's I have a Parkinson's support group here, and it's for everybody. Yeah, believers and not believers. We have people join in online, and also or to come in person. I run the meeting online and in person at the same time. So
I live in Orange County, so that's great.
yeah, yeah. I thought so later. You look familiar enough.
Where are you in Orange County?
Yes.
Okay, I live in Irvine, and then the majority of my wife's family lives in North Linda. So I don't know. Maybe we've ran into each other.
Yeah, I think so. I never forget a face.
Perfect. Perfect.
But,
Now, going back to one of the symptoms you had was your leg, your tibia, your foot would go lazy. Explain that to us and what that is.
I first ran into when I ran into a guy. We were sparring, and I was always the stronger of most people. At that time when I was fighting, my father was very much into weightlifting, and weightlifting was kind of a free thing back in the 50s, and he taught me correctly how to lift weights, and so I was stronger, but this person was pushing me down really easy, and I was thinking like, what the heck's wrong with my legs? He would push me down.
He was pushing on your shoulders, or
pushing on my shoulders.
Okay.
And when I went to work him in the body, he pushed me down. And I was thinking, how is he doing that? How is this guy so strong? And then one day when I was in my 40s, I noticed I was having some problems with keeping my legs underneath me, so to speak, and I would, and then I was having a hard time jumping. All of a sudden, it seemed like I could jump into a jump sitting back kick, no problem. And then one day, it just like stopped.
And just for the audience, you didn't have any injuries that compromised you jumping. No knees, ankles, hairs.
That was the time I'm talking about. So it was just very strange to me, and so I just became more aware of it, but not until I was about 56. It was when I noticed I was dragging my feet, and it felt like I was in quicksand when I was walking. And I went to the doctor and got the diagnosis.
That was the first symptom you had of Parkinson's, was the dragging your legs.
That's what got my attention, because as you know, as a we like to be at peak performance all the time, and when something's causing an issue,
It makes you all let's go out.
Richie, have you suffered from that at all?
Once or twice in a year and a half. I just you talk about the feet.
Yes.
And it could have been the shoes I had on, but I get cognizant of everything that you read about. So if you ask me a question again, I'd say no. Maybe twice then, but it could have been just scuffing my foot.
No, I noticed in recent months you've been shaking. Like we were just talking the other day, and you had no shakes.
Yeah.
Is that the medication, or is that your mind where you're trying to control it?
No, I think it's the medication. It's the dopamine, dope or whatever you want to call it. It is that. It's got to be that.
Yeah, Manny, I don't see you shaking at all. Do you shake?
No, I don't
No
have any
tremors.
tremors.
And you've never had them, or you don't no longer have them. Which one is it?
The closest thing I had to a tremor was when I was 19, 20 years old. I would notice that my lower lip would start to quiver, and I would start to stutter, and I would pull out a book and I would read it out loud to myself until I stopped stuttering, and I just contributed to hard sparring sessions, but I was I had lived around chemicals all my life because we've been at different military bases in California and Hawaii, and El Toro, former El Toro Marine Air Station in Irvine, is a perfect example. That's I lived there about 3 times as a young child, 3 different times, and there was orange groves all around us, and insecticides all the time, and later that the chemical TCE, or trichloride ethylene, was discovered in the water system and in the ground and in the soil.
It's from the fuel.
It was used mainly as a degreaser around there, and cleaning parts. And this was a big problem, a big chemical dump. But it amazed me that it was kind of glossed over. I don't have a lot of memory of a whole lot of hoopla about it, but I know it was done. You could pick a bidding or a newspaper or Google El Toro Marine Air Station and find out what was done.
Now, have you spoken to any other people that you grew up alongside in that area, and have any of those individuals come down with Parkinson's?
There's a test that can be done to kind of source what was probable on your list of causes that brought it on your particular situation. And you notice I'm having a little difficult time
Yes.
speaking because I'm getting a little tired. I'm getting hungry, and my medicine is on the downslide of
So you're coming up on the 4 hours you spoke
Yeah.
about.
Oh, and that's what I was going to say is it seems like nutrition does kind of play quite a bit of part. Like, and because certain things are popping in my brain, like the lip quiver and the eye quiver, like potassium, the levels of potassium in the body at that time, salt, what are your levels of salt, your hydration, things like that are kind of popping in my brain. Earlier when you had brought up how you don't eat red meat, right? So like certain contents of isoleucine and leucine, of how much you're getting in the body in that regard. Creatine, I think about what are the levels of creatine. So I'm like in my brain thinking like all these different levels, where are they at? Where do they coincide with, certain things that might be going on and certain contributors? And I may, it may be nothing, but those are the type of things that I'm kind of thinking when we're chatting, and nutrition, whether they say you are what you eat, right?
Yes.
In regards to nutrition, or how were you guys' nutrition in regards to growing up? Were you pretty well nourished?
Yeah.
Well, I had a lot of supplements thrown at me because my father's weightlifting background. But
Well, what's interesting about it is this is something he's maybe it is, maybe it has one, maybe it will be. Is that so? You had a lot of supplements, but you're also exposed to a lot of toxicity and poisons in the air. So clearly, the poisons were stronger than the supplements.
yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I wasn't pointing the finger at the supplements. I was just making a general statement of how I was raised. I was raised to eat well, but there's things that we don't have control over, like what the air pollutants and really the general way that people the American diet is not very good.
No.
And
Lots of carbohydrates.
more processed food,
Carbs.
and this all happened after World War II. All the big companies were trying to replace their profit, the military profits with the general public profits, and not that there's anything wrong with making profits in this America, but it's just an observation that it's generally known that these things changed after World War II. And then more and more people getting involved, getting out of farming and into the industrial age. Yeah. This seems to be one of the biggest sources of your problems of causing diseases.
A lot of them. Yeah, all of them together.
Chronic diseases of all types can be attributed to that.
Yeah.
And there's certain tests you can take to help you with this.
Well, yeah, I mean, but we can wrap this up and kind of chat about what one thing I kind of thought would be beneficial is, I keep thinking in my mind when we're all talking is, have I experienced it or not?
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? Like, because I've experienced the eye twitches before, and I always chalked it up to, well, potassium, I've been training too hard, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I guess you can't ever be too cautious, but at the same time, that's where I was kind of asking earlier, like, is there anything that you would want to leave the viewers to where like, hey, if this starts to happen, go ahead, get seen, is there anything like that you can pinpoint?
Yeah, you can get there's a marker test for DNA. It shows that if you're predisposed for Parkinson's, and then there's other diseases, then you generally have to pay out of pocket to get that done. But it's relatively speaking, I think it's as low as 100 to as high as maybe 300 or 400 to get these things done. And you can look them up online. Because then that'll or if you have any future issues, but so hopefully that'll help.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen.
I could-
Pat, Richie, from Zach and I, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say one more thing. Purpose wise, I think you guys talking about it and providing the audience with I heard somebody say it, a sense of purpose, because when you get diagnosed with something like this, whether it be, it could be cancer, it could be, any of these type of illnesses that are starting to, it seems like becoming on the rise lately, or more so within these decades. Finding a place of purpose is the biggest thing, because if you can have purpose, that provides hope. If you have hope and a purpose and you're ready to fight, then, things can maybe it's going to end. Everybody has a tragic ending at the end of the time, right? But maybe you can reach it. But
peaceful one.
Well,
We all, I mean,
but we're all
graduate.
we're all gonna. Unfortunately, life is tragic. I mean, it's such a. We all go through a tragic ending. When we die, it's tragic. When, we all go through that. But it's the small moments in life that where we can reach somebody, and maybe that one little word today that we talked, or the with one little segment talk will make such a massive difference in their life that then can spiral on butterfly effect into other people's lives. And if we don't talk, it doesn't happen.
I would just like to say one thing is everybody watch your preservatives. Yeah, a lot of them preservatives is so, after World War II, they just boned it up. You get diverticulitis, which is unheard of in Europe. And over here, it's rampant. Terrible shit they put the food. You got to watch that.
Everything's processed by
Yes, good guys like you guys. Get a real trainer that knows how to box. You don't want to go to one of these classes with 50 people just throwing left and right, which God bless them. It's something, as you said, do something. But go to a real place with a guy show you how to really use your body.
like the Customado KO boxing gym here.
That's right. But if you guys, whoever.
I was just going to say also, we do boxing classes here at the Customado gym. Pat has deep level. We also work here from the gym, and Manny. So we'll post all those details.
And James says it kept do something.
Do something.
Do something, yeah. I mean, it's that old self-defense thing, you know a million things, and then when you're attacked, they really don't know what to do. We just do something.
Just do something. Just move.
Just
In
run.
general in life, moving is number one.
The key is, and Dan Inosanto always says it, is that the key is to keep moving, because as you get older, every 5 years, your body will change. And if you stop, you'll lose it very quickly. So the key is to keep moving.